Is it just me, or are the fireworks more muted this year?
It's definitely not just you. I'm getting the same vibe. Every explosion is so droll. Every firecracker is so lacking in life. Another year of this blasted pandemic has gone by, and it's still not over.
Yes. Have you heard of the new Omicron variant? It's already sweeping the world, I hear.
Yep, soon afterwards will be the Omega variant, which will not only be way more contagious, but flat out turn everyone into zombies.
It truly will be the last variant, won't it?
It will be the last variant, the Omega Man, which will not only be way more contagious, but flat out turn everyone into zombies. All except the vaccinated people, of course, but the zombies really drag this out for all of us, don't they?
I mean, zombie apocalypse, if you think about the way that goes, vaccinated people might not stand a chance anyway.
With this current virus, they seem to be doing the best, but too many people just,
I don't know. I know you and every single episode by telling people to get a vaccine, you or me, but as a professional devil's advocate fence sitter extraordinaire, maybe we should remain more neutral. I mean, I myself am vaccinated, but we don't want to alienate listeners.
Yeah, sure, why not? Let's remain neutral. You know that asteroid that's going to hit the Earth? Most people want us to redirect it or blow it up. What about the people who don't believe in the asteroid and we'll just let it hit and kill everyone? Their opinion is just as valid, right?
Donald, come on.
Or those aliens that are going to blow up all the cities and mind control everyone and turn us all into their slaves. Most of us want to attempt peaceful negotiations or just blow them up outright. But there are all those people that insist there are no aliens despite the giant flying saucers hovering directly over the cities right now. And we want to remain neutral, right? Let's treat their views with the same validity as those who see the aliens and know they're right there.
Donald, that's not the same thing.
Or how about that new young adult book series that's really hurtful in its influences to younger audiences by giving them the wrong ideas about romance and consent? And there are people who love it and treat it as true romance and imagine themselves with the main characters purely due to how attractive they are. Who cares about all their terrible issues? They can fix them. Their opinions mean just as much as those who know how problematic those books are, right?
Actually, you have a point there. That book series is very problematic. No two ways about that.
See? It's the same here. This stupid pandemic is just gonna last forever.
So, let's make the best of it. Think of all the writing we can get done with all our free time.
Cool! How much writing have you done?
Over 140,000 words! And that was just in the last month.
That was NaNoWriMo, and you tried to do more than usual anyway. What about the rest of the time in this blasted pandemic?
Oh, the rest of the time? Let's see. At the job, so if you carry the 1, divide by 2, round it to an even number just because round numbers are nice, and put the hat on the elf, take the cookies out of the oven, feed the gremlins after midnight, fly E.T. back home.
How much, David? Tell me!
Maybe, couple hundred words?
Yeah, see? The world just sucks right now. No one wants to do anything. These muted fireworks that simplify that. Nothing is being done. What is the point of it all when the world is just this gosh damn stupid? In the 20th century, it was the roaring 20s, but here in the 21st, it's more like the coughing and wheezing 20s.
But that's where we writers come in, isn't it? We can lead our readers forward to a brighter future. A better, more hopeful, less coughing and wheezing tomorrow.
I suppose.
Let us go into this new year with reinvigorated passion. In 2020, we faced a terrible pandemic. In 2021, we thought it'd be over, but it kept going. In 2022, however, it will surely by thunder be over. For real this time. Absolutely. Guaranteed or your money back.
Yeah, you're right. Zero COVID is going to happen in 2022 for sure. For realsies. And we writers will lead the way. My English major will no longer be useless and a financial burden.
Yeah! Let's go into 2022 pandemic free. We're gonna beat the Rona and then party in Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona. Now, if you'll excuse me, let me just turn on the news. Breaking story. Scientists at the Retopolis Medical Laboratories have identified a new strain of COVID-19 called the Omega variant. This weekend's forecast is sunshine, scattered thunderstorms, and the inevitable zombie apocalypse.
Oh, man. Really?
No! Why?
Why?
Why, David? Why? This will never end.
Never end! again.
This is
The pandemic that never ends. It just goes on and on, my friend. Some people took the vaccine and we thought it would end then, but variants and anti-vaxxers will make it start again. This is the pandemic that never ends. It just goes on and 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 on.
Happy New Year, David.
Is it really, Donald?
No, not really.
Welcome, fellow nerds, to another episode of the Ritwit, the most transparent demonstration of two white guys falling upwards.
Yep. 1 minute, we're two white guys who have a podcast, and that ranks number like 5 billion, and then suddenly we're ranking number 4,999,000.
That's gone up a whole, 10 podcasts?
Yeah. I can math.
Falling upwards, yes. All right.
For what's worth, I did get a notification that my other show, Paleobites, go listen to that, is currently the 130th most downloaded nature podcast in all of Denmark.
There are 129 others downloaded in Denmark. Holy mackerel.
Yeah, I'm just like, that's not...
You're missing on your market here.
This isn't good. Like, this superlative is so narrow. Like, I'm 130th.
It's too precise.
Is there like 131 podcasts that they listen to about nature in Denmark, I'm assuming? I just beat this one.
The top 130. So either it means that they're just omitting the last number.
We're just ahead of...
As an example...
We're just ahead of Danish Waffle Man.
As an example, in
Why did
my
I say
high
Waffle
school
Man?
career,
I'm so confused.
In my high school career, my barbershop quartet won the state contest for barbershop quartets. It was cool. We got a trophy. We got a plaque. Got to keep the trophy for a year. What they did not tell you is that we were the only ones who were actually planning to compete.
Oh.
We hadn't even registered. And they gave it to us by default. But we won!
Best way to win, by default.
Speak for yourself. I wanted to prove that we were better. But anyway.
We wanted to be a real monster of the competition. And
yeah, we wanted to be a beast at the competition.
And speaking of which... We're talking about monsters. I'm going to do the intro this time because this was my idea.
Yeah, the whole allegory set. If you haven't quite picked up on the theme yet, this is an idea that Donald decided to take and we ran with it. So I really haven't had a ton to say, but the big kahuna...
This is the whole reason I wanted to do it.
The whole reason we did the set. So he's taking it... we are talking about using allegory in monsters.
Because, it might be thinking, well, that's very specific. The thing is, monsters are so good for allegories. Like, every good monster is an allegory of something. Usually they're, the thing is, when you have allegories, they're limited to the same type of things themselves. Like, plots allude to plots or historical events.
Sure.
Characters allude to historical figures. Mm-hmm. Or factions allude to factions, the works. But monsters, they can be allegories for anything.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of choice there.
I mean, have you heard of the Pixar movie coming up, Turning Red? It's about a little girl who is going through puberty, and when she gets excited, she becomes a giant red panda.
Oh, okay, I have heard about this. Oh my gosh.
So this red panda is an allegory for puberty.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
This is why they make their own episode. And also, they can make their whole set of episodes if David here would let me do it.
I mean, I'd have even less to say if we had to split this
stretch it so
into
thin,
a whole set. But...
So thin. It's a wide ocean. That's 2 inches deep. So
very wide, but terribly shallow.
Yes. Now, obviously, Godzilla is an allegory for the fallout of Hiroshima. But King Kong is an allegory for old school colonialism. The Blob is an allegory for communism.
Don't see that one, but I guess I'll take your word for it.
Cloverfield is an allegory for 9/11. Pacific Rim...
that was made before 9/11.
2008.
Okay, obviously not.
Pacific Rim's Kaiju are an allegory for climate change. And so on and so forth. What is it about monsters that makes them so good at being allegories?
I think the reason that monsters are so frequently used to be an allegory is their very existence.
Yes.
Things on such a scale, now assuming like the Daikaiju, the gigantic monsters, but obviously not all of them are that same scale.
That's true. It was in the Paleobites Patreon episode, you talked about the different...
the kaiju alignment chart.
Yes. Yes.
That was
Go listen to that at our Patreon at patreon.com/Matthew Donald. I think it's a Zero Ranger episode.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Things on such a scale don't really make sense to us.
Yes.
You know those videos you see where you're like, okay, now here's you, and then here's you on Earth, and then here's Earth in the Milky Way, and then here's Earth in like the universe.
I like your voice, like,
God.
and here's Earth in the universe, and here's Earth in the multiverse, and here's Earth. That can't really get much bigger than multiverse.
Don't really make sense to us. This is not to say there isn't science behind the creatures, particularly vital stats. Golly, if you've seen kaiju films, they track those things like immediately. But for such giants to exist nowadays, something happened.
It's true. It's not exactly something that happens naturally.
Be it the major phenomenon that said author is not fond of, or something tragic that has major fallout.
Yes. Honey, I blew up the baby. Remember that movie?
Yeah, Shrunk the Kids was great. Since they don't have voices of their own most of the time,
yes,
they must represent something as is, which opens up the world of allegory for possibilities.
I mean, blowing up the baby is an allegory for the problems of fatherhood and how overwhelming it could be, or parenthood in general.
I never would have thought of that. See, I really don't dive.
You don't get allegories. It's because you're not an English major, man. Actually, no.
Well, I think that, I don't always enjoy thinking on a critical level about things. I'm sure if I had to,
I mean, not everything can be thought. I mean, we've talked about this before, but not everything can be thought of at a critical level. But and it's not like everything is required to be either.
No,
but
I mean, if you enjoy it without being so critical of things, then it works out okay anyway.
It just adds a little bit of an extra oomph to it that I appreciate. So
there's nothing wrong with having a little extra oomph, especially if you're the one writing it. And I do intend to write things in like that, but I also don't expect my stuff to be taken into an AP literature class and claimed as
I've often thought about in my book Megazoic, people could take a lot of different allegories for a lot of different things. Like, for example, you have this faction that is driven by this cortex, and they're heavily militarized, and they don't care for their people too much, but they want to invade other countries. Now, is the Training Kingdom America, and is the cortex the political machine? Now, I did not mean it this way.
On the record.
But after reading through it, it does accidentally kind of seem like I did. So,
on the record.
But again, and the curtains are freaking blue. Let me just say it. That is the intended message of this.
And for more on that, I think that was like 3 weeks ago.
Oh, no. Who knows? Anyway.
Anyhow. But I mean, because if you're doing it to represent some concept, it doesn't need to have a voice of its own. It doesn't need to be something. Every day. It's not every day. It could be something affecting your world. It could be something affecting another country. It could be just about anything.
Well, I can argue it does have its own voice, and by being a kaiju, it's the biggest voice you could possibly have. It's just unsubtle. It's just,
does it speak in a language
it literally
that
doesn't
we understand?
speak.
That's
No.
what I mean by voice, not like physical. Yeah, anyway.
Although Godzilla versus Kong does do sign language. That's pretty cool.
Sign language. I mean, again, some of these larger than life monsters, some of the monsters that aren't larger than life, there may be ways for them to communicate with us, and there's obviously science behind the creatures. Or maybe hand-waved science just because you want to have the thing in there. But more importantly, the fact that they even exist in that form means something is upset with the natural order of things.
Mm-hmm.
Be it the radioactive fallout from a
Yes,
nuclear bomb.
absolutely. Turning an innocent Godzilla-saurus or Gojira-saurus, or whatever it is.
Would be called Gojira-saurus.
Into this giant thing it is now.
But that's kind of that's kind of my take, and this may be the longest answer I have in this entire episode. But what about you, Donald?
They also represent the hubris of humanity and how easily we can be put in our place for whatever reason. We like to think of ourselves at the top of the pecking order, the number one in the global network, the biggest cheese of all time.
You know, the sad reality is that Mother Nature and Father Time are always 1 and 1A. But anyway, go ahead.
But a monster comes along and reminds us just how small we really are. And what a monster could represent to make us seem small doesn't necessarily have to always be smashy buildings, laser breath, whatever. It can mean a lot. What is it that has reminded humanity of how meager and insignificant we are? Can be a lot.
Heck, it could be walking into downtown of a city and looking up at the buildings and realizing, oh my God, they're tall.
It could be looking at those diagrams and say, and here's Earth.
And this tiny little speck is Earth in the entirety of the universe that we know.
You know what made me feel small was looking at it from the other direction, where it's like, here is this picture taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. In this picture are hundreds of galaxies. Like, some of them you can see up close, and there's like a couple dozen. But the others are they're so far back they just look like stars, but they're galaxies. So there's thousands or hundreds or whatever galaxies in this picture, which means, and all those have, trillions of stars, which potentially trillions of planets. Just think about how much is in that one image.
Yeah.
And this one image is taken in a portion of the sky, a quarter of the size of the moon.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's
nothing makes me feel so small as that.
Fun story. When I was in high school, I was in the all-state choir, and they had vocalists from all across the state. One year, I went to visit one of the singers that I met at that event in Fruta, which is a small town near Grand Junction.
Okay.
And everything out there is open. Country roads, hardly paved, no street lights. And it was the summer. So at night, outside, you look up, and I've never seen so many stars.
Yeah, I know. No light pollution.
Exactly. And so you never seen so many stars, and just to think that all of those could be things that came from so far away to finally be visible in that one moment to my eye. And it was awe-inspiring.
You know what's also awe-inspiring about that? All the stars we can see from Earth with the naked eye, if you look at like the Milky Way as a whole, it's a teeny tiny fraction.
Yeah.
It's so little. The ones we can see with the naked eye. We are seeing just a teeny tiny portion of the Milky Way with our naked eye.
But the Milky Way itself is not a monster. So to get back to our topic...
In one way it is, but does using a monster
it's
monstrous.
It makes us feel small. That was the whole reason.
Using a monster as an allegory need to be political or religious?
Or something else of that
scientific
kind.
And astronomical. Astrological.
As a tokusatsu fan who engages with several different, strongly opinionated people on the topic regularly, I have a hard time seeing it as anything besides a charged invective about the BS that people have inflicted on others.
Yes, exactly. Like,
people way smarter than I, who don't care so much about escaping to enjoy these suited titans clashing against each other, can boil most of the kaiju in particular as a response to something. But it's not unique to them at all. If you take the themes at face value, there are major issues we struggle with on the regular that are subconsciously included in toku shows. Xenophobia.
Yes.
The bitter ignorance of consequences.
Yes.
And the irony that comes from asking for assistance in the face of their ultimate folly. It proves again just how flawed we can be as humans.
Well, like, in thinking of, like, the consequences of our actions, another monster, but definitely not a kaiju, is Frankenstein's monster.
Absolutely.
Like, that definitely represents the hubris of humanity and the ignorance of her consequences. Like,
the hubris of Victor Frankenstein himself, yes.
And fuck,
I caught myself.
Frankenstein! My name
is Frankenstein! Frankenstein! And his eyes were amazing. God, love
Gene Wilder
in
has just
that
the
movie.
craziest
I
eyes.
loved him in that movie. I was scared of him in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but I loved him in Young
You
Frankenstein.
have nothing. You lose. Good day, sir. I actually have not seen Charlie. Look, anything that Willy Wonka. Anytime it tries to be whimsical, I'm just creeped out. I hate it. I've never liked Willy Wonka. I've never liked that.
You'll notice that I included the jab at how they're normally portrayed by suited or CGI. But anyway,
Although it's kind of funny, in Pacific Rim they did design the monsters, even though they're obviously CGI. They made their designs look as if you could do them in with a suit. They have 2 legs and arms and a head in a way that a human could walk in them. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Multiple humans can walk in them because I've actually seen a few that have like
like a
4
pantomime.
legs. No, literally. So they have 4 legs, but there's like a long torso. So one person is standing up, and then the other person is like hunched over.
Like a pantomime. Yeah.
Pantomime.
Yeah, pantomime. Isn't that what it is with like a pantomime horse?
Maybe.
Or one person's the front, and the other person's the back.
Maybe. Anyway,
She can literally be a horse's ass.
I was thinking you were abusing the word pantomime, but anyway, this happens a lot in the Ultra series.
Yes.
Which of course fight monsters and aliens on the regular, but humans think that they cannot rely on the power of Ultraman or whatever Ultraman blank to fight their battles for them, and so they're always power hungry about trying to build an ultimate weapon, and there's inevitably a time that one guy goes insane off the deep end to say, you know what, we're going to use this. I don't care what you people are telling me, this is going to work. We will prove our superiority. And then they fire
and here's
the
this
thing.
guy against the monster.
And then they fire the thing, and it goes horribly wrong, and they have to call in the Ultra to save their sorry asses, and it always goes the same way. And it's like, they don't even have the Just Desserts theme. They are chastised, but then they don't really learn. It's like, oh my god, this is awful. My soapbox on the issue aside.
Yes, of course.
Because of creative...
That happens a lot in other stuff, too. Like, Mecha Godzilla and Godzilla vs. Kong was brought back. Was because humans were like, we need to have something to fight.
We can fight these guys. Well, let's make it.
Yeah.
And we can control it, too. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen Godzilla vs. Kong. Full disclosure.
You nailed it.
I nailed it. It's so predictable. Because of creative motivations, I can't think of many monsters who don't have some charged idea behind their conception. Doesn't mean they don't exist, but...
Oh, I'm sure there's monsters that are just like, it'd be cool, man.
Making a big red dog.
It's not necessarily cool.
Somebody thought it was, or else it would not have happened.
Clifford,
okay?
sort of like how Honey, I Blew Up the Baby is a metaphor about the how hard parenthood is. Clifford is a metaphor for how overwhelming owning a pet can be.
Okay, so I'm gonna say that doesn't mean that those monsters do not exist, but I am simply not smart enough to see them.
You sell yourself short. But,
does that mean that I should just turn off my inner critic filter even more and just consume content?
Consume.
Probably.
But
all right. What do you
just watch this like monster smash stuff.
Oh look, there are humans inside what's obviously one human in a suit, but there are warriors inside this robot that's fighting this monster. Let's go!
Oh look, they're fighting. Oh look, there's the Empire State Building. Oh, there goes the Empire State Building.
Actually, there's a rumor that the Sentai series is going to take away having people in suits, and they're going to go entirely CG for the mech fights.
No! See, look, the recent Godzilla movies, like Shin Godzilla, what have you, they still use people in suits, but what they do use the CGI for is for the effects, like the breath and, the lasers and the other stuff, and that's fine.
Yeah, because Godzilla's nuclear breath is powerful enough to propel it like a rocket.
Well, that was an old thing.
Totally, without the wires that are visible in the shot.
That was in Godzilla's dorkier times when, back when he had a kid,
When did you become an expert on kaiju?
I've watched Cinemassacre's Monster Madness Godzilla-thon by James Rolfe. Lord.
All right, though.
Did you know that okay, Adam Wingard, who's the director of Godzilla vs. Kong, offered James Rolfe a cameo in that movie because he knew how much he loved that genre. He unfortunately had to decline it because his second child was being born. But that would have been so cool to see the angry video game nerd like in the crowd or something. I
don't think he would have been.
He wouldn't be the angry video game nerd, but he'd be but that'd be so like. Oh,
all right,
he must have been honored. He must have been honored, man, to have asked that.
Though,
so,
does using monster as an allegory need to be political, religious?
I'd say almost always, yeah. Like the monster represents something humanity either did wrong or a threat humanity faces from outside sources, both of which are inherently political.
Okay.
In Pacific Rim, the kaijus only return because, according to Charlie Day's character, they originally tried to take over during the era of the dinosaurs, or they were the dinosaurs. It's intentionally ambiguous.
Yeah.
But the atmosphere wasn't correct for them. Once humanity came along, polluted the atmosphere, poisoned the oceans. According to Charlie Day's character, his name is Newton Geisler, by the way, we practically terraformed it for them.
You're so focused on the actor.
That's pretty unsubtly a reference to man-made climate change. But how about the fact that kaiju come in categories, like storms?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they mainly attack coastal cities.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Well, I think part of that was, I mean, in story, wasn't there like a portal or something they were coming
in the
from?
Pacific Rim,
in the ocean, so that does stand a reason, but it doesn't make the allegory to hurricanes any lesser.
Yes. And also the fact that all of humanity has to come together, pool its resources, and unite against the threat in order to stop it.
We need to replace those levees now!
Quick, that's the way we need to stop climate change. Get a giant robot and punch it.
I'm just gonna cold cock climate change in the face.
Go!
Okay, new one. Pacific Rim 3, they're gonna fight Zeus, and they're just gonna cold cock it.
See, at least there's something to punch.
Oh, Lord. I haven't seen Pacific Rim 2, by the way.
It's alright. It's nowhere near as good as the first one. I don't think it's as bad as some people think it is, either.
Well, I mean, I tend to enjoy things just for the effort that
You'll
goes
watch
into
it
making
like,
them.
So.
Well, and the reason why is because I just go in with no expectations. Works every time!
Except for Avatar, we went in with all the expectations.
Because of everybody and their dog.
This is worse than I expected.
Yeah, that was the one time, I'm pretty sure.
Alright, anyways. But, like, that's just one example, but if your monster is just a monster, well, while it would be cool on a surface level, you're not really doing it right. But how do you make it clear what your monster is an allegory for without, again, being too on the nose?
Or on the tail.
Or on the snout.
I have a feeling your delivery changes how blatant the nod becomes.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, the origin story of this monster may allude to some event without even name-dropping it. People theorizing about what could have turned an otherwise normal creature, we'll use a Gojirasaurus as an example, into this behemoth may come silly close to the actual reason without being 100% accurate. But it might just be accepted as, oh, well, that's the best explanation we've got, so it's right.
Right, makes sense.
But your cleverer readers will probably understand what it represents without the hand-holding of explaining an origin.
Yeah, there was nuclear sludge.
I think it's a fine line, but depending on the average demographic you're aiming for, it may feel like a broad band, even, of, like, just enough explanation.
I prefer Wi-Fi over broadband, but...
I was referring to compared to a fine line. It's
no,
broad.
I know. But sometimes, especially as something as broad and ostentatious as a monster, it can be okay to be a little on the nose.
I mean, it's got a huge nose!
Just a little on that big, giant nose. Like, Godzilla wouldn't work as well as it did without it being incredibly on that big, giant nose. That this horrifying monster is a direct result of the atomic bomb, aka humanity's monstrousness against itself personified. Also, King Kong being an ape brought from his home against his will in chains and going after a blonde white woman? Yeah, back in the 30s when this came out, what do you think that meant? Like, it's pretty racist sounding nowadays since, it's an ape. But...
Well, in those days when it was made, it was pretty damning for the white woman to actually care about the ape.
Right. Well, in the original movie, she didn't really.
Yeah.
She was just, the ape just kidnapped her and, from...
Subject of fascination, you might say.
Yeah, it's pretty, but in the context of the time, that's clearly meant to be an allegory for colonialism. So, but that last one is subtle enough that the Peter Jackson remake in 2005 could do the story while toning down some of the less unfortunate implications, and it worked just as well, I think, so.
Yeah. I mean, there's certainly a long history of performers taking things way too far and referencing cultures.
More on that.
Blackface.
Yes.
Terrible thing. But if you approach it now, would you do it differently? Of course. How can you? Well, I'm not going to say because there are so many various things that...
there's blackface and then, which we have thankfully stopped doing for a long time, and then there's one we haven't... We've done in a major blockbuster as recently as 2010, that's brownface, where you... Yeah.
Whitewashing the cast, yeah.
Well, it's more like... The movie we're talking about specifically is Prince of Persia, where you have Jake Gyllenhaal and Gemma Arterton, two very white people. And to be fair, the Persians had a lot of whiteness to them.
Scarlett Johansson is the titular character in Ghost in the Shell.
Well, in that instance, at least she played a white woman.
Yeah.
In Prince of Persia, not only do they play Persians, they do darken their skin a little. Like, if you look at the difference in Gemma Arterton in Prince of Persia versus her in Quantum of Solace,
or Clash of the Titans.
Clash of the Titans, she is far paler there. So,
she's pretty pale.
Yeah, she's pretty attractive. I like pale chicks.
Hey, different strokes for different folks. But I mean, we talked about a bunch of different kinds of allegory now.
But, of course. And is a monster the easiest allegory, though, to include? And if so, why do you believe that's the case? If not, what is the easiest allegory to use in the story?
I think a plot one is the easiest because they typically come from landmark events which need little introduction.
True.
If I say December 7th, most people understand what I'm really referring to, even if I don't say the words that I'm actually referring to.
It was recently 80 years.
Yeah.
As of the day before yesterday of recording, which this point...
There was actually a chorus from this state that went out there to sing for the anniversary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so some of the guys I'm singing with on a show this weekend are in Hawaii and coming back today. Anyway,
nice.
Saying that, were I ranking these four based on ease of use, monsters would definitely fall at number 2.
Ah, okay.
Obviously, when a historical event spurs a crazy reaction that defies the laws of nature and makes a monster, that's combining the two. So I stand by some allegorical plot event being the easiest.
That's true. Godzilla is both. So he's the
well, and that's something else that we didn't necessarily mention in so many words. That you said that all of them are kind of limited to what they can be, but monsters, they could combine multiple.
That's the point. That's why I bring it. They could be any of them and multiple. So
they could be any one of those. They could be multiple, but they also could reference anything, which is what I more understood you were mentioning, which is why I...
Yes, no, exactly. But but for me, monsters are big, enormous, unsubtle, loud, and proud. So having them being...
They have the subtlety of a bull in a china shop.
They have the subtlety of a phone in a movie theater.
They have the subtlety of my laugh. Am I wrong?
They have the subtlety of... Look, it's if it's 2 on the nose, really 2 on the nose.
Well, I mean, it's hard to mess up them being, some obvious allegory.
Yeah, like an obvious allegory, yes. But it might be a problem if it's 2 on the nose. But since they're a giant stomping monster, the subtlety's already been thrown out the window. So go ham! Point is, yes, I think it could be the easiest. Although I do agree with you that if it's a plot sort of thing, especially a recent historical event. Although depending on how recent it is, that might be a bit too.
Yeah, I mean, if it's in the collective conscious of the
main audience you're aiming for, then yeah, it probably doesn't matter when it is.
Well, it's like
Collective conscious doesn't mean immediate or recent past. It could be quite a ways back. December 7th is 80 years ago.
too soon.
Just saying.
People are making 9/11 jokes all the time now. Hell, people are making coronavirus jokes all the time.
Oh gosh, there was one. I've lived through so many decades, and it's like the 1970s, the 1980s, the 1990s, the 2000s, the 2010s. April 2019 to July 2019. Yes. August 2019,
Yep.
December 2019.
Yep, exactly. Oh, man. And also, like, in Shang-Chi, this isn't really a spoiler because I think they're in the trailers, but at the end there's a lot of monsters. They look kind of like octopuses, but they also kind of look like bats. Like, oh no, last time bats and China mixed together wasn't good.
Bob so hard, we got a sequel.
Yes.
All right.
All right. So yeah, but that's I think it's the easiest, and like that's the thing about monsters. They can be as unsubtle as you want, and it can usually work out just fine. But let us know what you think, listeners. Though, and speaking of let us know,
yeah, we've got some reading the fan mail here. Listeners will be happy to note that we have some more exclusive content over on Patreon for the show.
Yep.
Finally. So if you're like our biggest fans and have that access, please check out what we say about our personal writing pet peeves.
You know, I like to think our biggest fans, you know, they could, you know, subscribe to our Patreon, but they're probably doing a lot creepier stuff. Like sending us their eyelashes.
This isn't OnlyFans, it's just Patreon, okay?
It's like, man, I'm such a big fan of yours. Here's some of my pee.
I'm sorry. I don't see how that is like proving that they're a big fan of any one entity unless the whole gag of that entity is making pee jokes.
Okay, well, here we go. Here's a vial for you to put your own pee in. Send it, return to sender, so I can clone you.
I can have this and hold on to it.
And then I can have your DNA and just make all of you.
I mean, I should figure that, yeah, of course, because it's, you know, coming from our own bodies that are made of DNA. But
Our
does
spit
yours
has
really
DNA.
have DNA?
I mean, any more than blood or spit does, yeah.
Well, blood makes a lot more sense. But I don't know. Anyway, we actually did have some input on the exclusive, though, since we put it out. So
Yes.
share one such message with you
Uh-oh.
from Lawrence M. in Colorado. Shock, it's in Colorado. I think it's neat how you got into some more personal stuff. Why don't you do that on the podcast more often?
Look, okay. Personal stuff, man. I had the biggest BM the other day. You wouldn't believe.
Had a good night's rest. Had a good PM. I can't handle any bad news. Alright, but anyway, Lawrence, if we did, some of the impact from our exclusive content might lose its oomph, right?
Right. I trimmed my nose hair, and you won't believe what I found in there.
I mean, I started looking for a bunch of emeralds, and I found some rubies to go with it.
Ouch!
Lawrence, we really appreciate your support. All of our patrons really appreciate your support. Thanks so much.
You want personal? Here's my dental records.
Let me just give you my credit card number. I'm sure you guys won't misuse that at all.
My social security number is
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
That's the stupidest social security number I've ever had in my life. It's the kind of thing an idiot would have on his luggage.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's the same combination I have on my luggage. God, it's the second, third.
We mentioned Young Frankenstein.
Can you tell me love Mel Brooks? Anyway, in other comments this go around, we had a rabid.
How did we go through that last episode about factions, or I guess it really wasn't about factions.
And not talk about the Spaceballs?
We're talking about that or Blazing Saddles. I was thinking too.
Oh, I wasn't thinking about Blazing Saddles.
It was just like the racism.
But
Yeah.
Black Sheriff? What? We're
What?
Blazing Saddles.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
As if that explains it all away. That's now 4 and 5. Okay.
Jesus. Yes.
Okay. We had a rabid fan that wanted to profess what? Love for the works of Matt Donald over there.
Oh.
From listener Isaac B. out of Ohio. How in the world is this podcast only top 15 in downloads for its category? This is my number one! Besides, it all has the Matthew Donald name included, which automatically should be extra bonus points. I love his books,
Aww.
even if I haven't reviewed them yet on Amazon. I should probably do that soon.
Thank you, Isaac. You should do that soon.
Definitely.
And you will. No, I'm just kidding.
Donald appreciates all the honest reviews, not just clicking 5 stars just because. If you truly don't think it's 5, then don't have to leave a 5-star review. It's okay. He likes that better.
That's true.
But Isaac, we do hope you're enjoying Paleo Bites if you're into his Megaloboic books as well.
Oh, as well. And then speaking of honest reviews, I did like that one review that was 1 star and it was like, the information is extremely shallow. Bottom of the barrel jokes. I'm like, yeah, and
That's the point!
Yep.
Alright, the last one here from listener Chase W. from Oregon. You guys have inspired me to write like mad. Are there any challenges like NaNoWriMo, but not in November?
I mean, NaNoWriMo stands for National Novel Writers Month, so it could
Doesn't say
theoretically
anything about November.
could be any time.
Chase, it's a great question. And thanks for letting us share it with your fellow listeners, by the way.
Yes.
I believe I have mentioned before that the operation of NaNoWriMo actually hosts a couple of camp events, each a month long, one in April and another in July. The goals are much more personalized, but they keep their doors open in support of all attempting to meet their goal. So they'll set up like virtual write-ins and meetups and groups based on your region, stuff like that. It's worth saying their efforts are amazing.
That's really cool what they do. Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of wish we could get a sponsorship from them. It'd be nice.
Are you listening?
I mean, I've done your contest for how many years? But anyway.
900,000 words!
There are people who do that in a month. As ludicrous as that is, I'm pretty sure there have been some.
Oh, I think the record's like several million, so yes.
So, yeah. But there's nothing preventing you, Chase, from writing your own story any month of the year and setting a goal. Heck, I made a forum once called Writer's Challenge.
I remember that.
That was designed on that express idea that I give you a prompt and you figure out how you want to make that prompt live in your story, and you have a month or maybe 2 months to do it.
Yep.
With no word count goal, it was voted on by the other members. I thought it was a great operation, but boy howdy, it was a small one. So,
well, we work with the limited pools we have,
what's the axiom? You shoot for the moon, you'll still land among the stars?
Way farther than the moon.
Depends on what stars you're looking at.
No, there's not. I can assure you, as someone who likes astronomy, there's not a single star that is closer than the moon. Unless you're talking about the stars' homes in Los Angeles, am I right?
It's more of a theoretical thing.
Not theoretical, it's more of an allegorical thing.
Oh, speaking of allegory, no, I'm kidding.
Oh,
any word
start
count,
it all over again, guys! Here we go!
Any word count, page count, scripted scene, whatever, the world could be your oyster. Anytime you decide to start and conclude a challenge of that nature.
Self-imposed challenges, though, can be really difficult.
They can be.
Because, I'm the only one.
Necessity breeds invention, I think is the thing.
Yeah.
So
it's like, I'm the only one who's stopping me from doing this, so...
Absolutely.
So why don't I just not do it?
I mean, the sad reality is that NaNoWriMo... I mean, I will tout NaNoWriMo to the ends of the earth because while I am very good at spewing things on a page that most of them probably won't end up on the finalized version, I do so much more writing in the auspice of that event every year than I do outside of it.
Yeah.
Like, bar none. 900,000 words, and outside of that, I may be up to 1 million total. I probably am not, because I take way more care when I'm writing outside of Nano. But
I think if you add everything...
I don't write consistently enough, but for that month. It's like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to set aside this month and do it. So,
but you do write so much in that month.
Nothing stopping you or any other listeners of ours from doing the same thing. It doesn't even have to be month to month. You could say, okay, well, I'm starting tomorrow, and I'm going to give myself 30 days. Whatever. I don't care. Go for it.
I mean, as of when this episode comes out, it's 2022, baby. What are your 2022 goals?
I don't know. For those of you who are like Chase and Isaac, don't mind having us read out your comments on the air. Please let us know. We love hearing from you.
We do get some comments from people who don't want us to Like I
we get a couple that prefer not to be shared on the air, and we do respect that as well. For details on how to get in touch with us, you're in luck. We're about to tell you. Check out the Patreon if you're interested in supporting us further than that.
Patreon
as well.
Patreon.com/Matthew Donald.
It's going to be in the description, but. Safe to say that's it for this week. And a huge thank you to all those who have already chosen to become our patrons. Your support
help us
the world.
Help us feed this giant monster that is the Matthew Donald brand.
That is definitely true. Well, and here's the thing. We could really use your support in the near future because the studio we have been recording.
Oh yes. And actually, a friend of the show, he hasn't been on this show, even though he should because he writes, but he's been on Pay Bites a lot. Steven.
Oh, yeah.
He has actually.
What the hell?
Yeah, why isn't he on this show? I'm going to get him on this show.
Because you don't ever see him. Anyway.
All right, but so he wants to see if he can pitch in to help, like maybe start a fundraiser or something, or like a GoFundMe. For the studio, just because he really wants to save it.
Yeah.
Like a GoFundMe or something.
Yeah, I mean, put it this way. If you direct your support to the studio that we use, which... Unless you're local, we won't tell you because it's not probably relevant. Or if you choose to become a patron, we can, make some contingency plans such that we're not going to be left out in the cold without a good studio space.
And as you can tell at this set, this is not at the studio.
No.
This is at my apartment.
No,
with my
comedy of errors. We won't get into that because we don't have the time. But if you're interested in supporting us, helping us make sure that we can continue providing this content with high-quality audio, we're going to probably need some equipment or space, and anything that you can contribute to the cause infinitely helps us continue.
It really
to do
does.
what we love to do.
Even if it's just like a couple of people sign up to the lowest tier, that's still very helpful.
Exactly.
And
get your name on his website. There are other perks. You can check them on the website.
Just a little bit more, early episodes, a little bit more.
Even the early tier is that, right?
No.
Okay. Well, let's not get too...
Yeah, it's all on the website.
Because the details are there. So if you check out the link, patreon.com, with Matthew Donald specifically... It'll give you information about giving rates and the perks for doing all of those things. And we cannot stress enough, if you support us through that means, it means the world to us, no matter what you support us with.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
It means so much. And if you want to follow us personally, well, follow me personally. Although, hey, it's 2022. Nerds are us.
Nerds are us. If you'd like to check that out, wherever you get your podcasts, check out Nerds Are Us. And I'm pretty sure that any spelling, whether you put the apostrophes the same way I do or not, will probably get you the results.
Except for the spelling A-R-E, us.
Yeah, don't spell the word R, but besides...
Anyways, if you want me personally, I don't know if you want to add your social media.
Well, social media, Nerds Are Us, I shouldn't say will. We have it. We have a Discord server.
Ooh.
Yeah. So if you'd like to get in touch with myself or my co-manager from that podcast, go ahead. I don't know if I'll include the link to the Discord in the description here.
Not just yet, anyway.
But I probably will plead that Donald be gracious enough to include a link to somewhere you can listen to Nerds Are Us in the description.
Please do.
So,
I will.
I appreciate that very much. Anyway.
Please do, Matt. Okay, Matt.
Okay, Matt. Thank you, Matt.
Anyways, we'll follow this, Matt. You can follow me at Matthewdon Creator on Facebook, at Matthewdon64 on Twitter, and Matthewdon64 on Instagram. Why 64? Because that was the biggest number I can think of. Seriously, can you think of a bigger number? You can't, can you?
What comes after 4? So what if I put
60...
a 5 after the 6?
No, it doesn't exist.
No, it's imaginary still?
No, it doesn't.
Well, I thought that...
64, that's... anything
I thought that the imaginary number, was like the square root of -1.
Look, math is not my strong
69!
suit.
Nice. We're done for the Ritwit.
God, I hate the fact that 69's become the nice number. It's like, that's not what it means. In fact, my 12-year-old nephew made a 69 joke, and I'm like, you don't know what that... you don't know what that means.
Yes, he does.
And he's like, no, it means nice. And I'm like, that's not what it means. That's not what it means.
You sweet summer child,
you sweet naive soul. Oh, man.
If you're listening to this, Jacob, thanks. But this has been the Ritwit. We tweeted ourselves out about Allegory. We'll be back. Are we taking the break or no?
Oh, that's right. You won't be back for this next set, because the next set, guess what?
Right. It's that time of year again.
The Witties. You want to do it, right, David? Actually, no, you don't. No. And you're not going to do it.
No.
Like the little bitch you are.
We hold no punches. So I don't know if it will be immediately next week or if there will be a week break between.
We'll find out.
So you'll find out with us. But check back next week and maybe you'll see the first episode of this year's Witties going up with a special guest co-host. You'll find out more details then because I got out of it.
Not entirely. Because
what?
No, because remember you gotta say at the beginning.
Nominee.
Yeah. So give us one.
I'll just record it.
Give me one
right now.
Nominee.
Wow, thank you so much. Actually, wait, no, we'll have to re-record because this is not the studio. This isn't a good audio quality version. I can just use one of the ones we recorded at the studio. So you're good. And again,
I'm good. I got out of it. Ah. I will enjoy listening to the Witties along with all the rest of y'all. So enjoy
all
that.
the rest of y'all. Until then, I'm Matt Donald.
I'm Matt David. Keep on writing the good writ.
Writing the good right, safe.
We'll see you back.
Was to say, wear a vaccine, get a mask.
We are already in 2022 with this, so hopefully your New Year celebrations were fun.
Yep.
And look forward to the Witties. And I will be back when we have the set after the Witties.
Mm-hmm.
And Donald will see you before that.
See ya.
Stay tuned.
Bye.
Bye.
The Read
Happy New Year, David.
Is it really, Donald?
No, not really.